Hello and welcome to Agric Biotech and Food Security. It is believed in certain quarters that biotechnology holds tremendous possibilities for the developing world because of the use of high-yielding diseases and pest-resistant crops, which will have direct bearing on improved food security, poverty alleviation, and environmental conservation. 5 major industrial nations led by the US grow GM crops. There are other 43 countries and 26 European nations. In Africa, genetically modified crops have taken roots in South Africa, Egypt, Sudan, and Burkina Faso. Of all the countries in Africa, South Africa tops the list in commercially cultivated GM crops, with Burkina Faso and Egypt starting in 2008 and Sudan in 2012. So these nations have done well so far in commercial cultivation of GM crops. Aside this, other African nations involved in sustained biotech research include Nigeria, Cameroon, Ethiopia, Mozambique, Swaziland, Tanzania, and Uganda, with 14 traits of 12 crops under various stages of development. Today on the show, we shall evaluate the trajectory of GM crops globally with emphasis on Africa and Nigeria in particular. What are the success stories? To do that is the Director, Agricultural Biotech Department of the National Biotechnology Development Agency, NABDA, Dr. Mrs. Rose Gidado. I am Kyrian Umayo. Stay tuned and be part of our show today. Now with me is the Director, Agricultural Biotechnology at the National Biotechnology Development Agency, NABDA, Dr. Mrs. Rose Gidado. Madam, you're welcome to the program.
Yeah, thank you, Kyrian, once more.
Our topic today centers on the impact of biotech crops on food security. Globally speaking, I'd like you to share with us what you make of the general impact of biotech crops globally, considering that so many countries are already, imbibing that technology, and what are the advantages of biotech crops, especially as it affects the environment and the entire ecosystem.
Okay, globally, agricultural biotechnology contributes a lot, to those countries that have adopted this modern technology and emerging technology. They've gained a lot with their farmers, their economy in terms of food security. Most of them are food secured, like the US, Canada, India, Brazil, Argentina. I can go on and on. South Africa, here in Africa. And I remember Burkina Faso some years back, around 2008 to 2010. I think they were also booming. Their farmers were enjoying. They were having bumper harvest from BT cotton. Until they were interrupted, but I think they've gone back now. So it does a lot. It increases productivity, quite a lot, and then it conserves biodiversity as well, and then it reduces, gas emissions. These greenhouse gases, like carbon dioxide, carbon monoxide, all those. Let me give you an example. We have the herbicide-tolerant soybeans, like I told you about. The herbicide-tolerant soybean was actually developed to resist the herbicide, glyphosate. Glyphosate is a herbicide, but it's the safest of all the herbicides. It's biodegradable as well. You know that soybeans itself fixes nitrogen to the soil. So when you cultivate soybeans, it has the tendency of being choked up by weeds, weed common, because it fixes nitrogen to the soil. So that's the main problem that farmers have been having with cultivation of soybeans, the local soybeans that we have. So they come up, choke up the plant, and so the crop is not able to like give you high yield, especially the farmers. The farmers keep weeding, and so they end up with low yields because those weeds are sharing nutrients with the crop. So in the case of the herbicide-tolerant soybeans, I think why the breeders decided to come up with that, so that you spray once you spray, because in this case, sometimes, this cultivation, weeding and weeding, open up the soil and the nutrients. It also encourages erosion and what, and the nutrients leach out and all those things. So instead of weeding, they now decided to develop soybeans to be able to tolerate the glyphosate spray, because that's what most farmers use. They use it a lot. They spray your soybeans because it's been developed to tolerate that spray. I mean, that herbicide. It does not die. It doesn't affect it because that pathway is, already blocked. So you spray it, the weeds die off, and so when they die, they go down. So you don't need to even, and as they go down, the weeds, they go down below the plant. The plants outgrow the weeds because they are already dead. And so as they are down, they trap the nutrients. The nutrients are there, they're intact. The plants get vigorous. You will see them with vigor and all, and they're able to produce and give you high yields because that weed invasiveness has gone. And so there's carbon sequestration, carbon dioxide sequestration, because the plants take up carbon dioxide. Actually. We breathe out carbon dioxide and take in oxygen, but they take in carbon dioxide and breathe out the oxygen. So that's why we have a good symbiotic relationship with plants. And that's why wherever you are or wherever, even if you have one room, you should have plants around you because of that relationship. So that's why cutting down of trees and what creates accumulation of carbon dioxide in the air. And once there's too much, because there's too much of that in the air, that's why temperature gets hot. And it affects the ozone layer as well, So, and once the ozone layer is affected, it's, the problems,
climate change.
Climate change. So these are all the causes of climate change. So we can say that biotechnology actually contributes to the mitigation of climate change.
Madam, there are misconceptions, misgivings, and misinterpretations of what biotechnology is indeed all about. But the good news is that some African countries are already engaging the technology. There are, nations mentioned earlier at the beginning, but I'm particularly interested in Benin Republic and, of course, South Africa, which, of course, is number one in Africa in terms of GMO commercialized crops. Now, tell us more about the current situation of biotech in Africa.
I think I had something recently. Maybe they're trying to put up their biosafety framework in place, because as you are adopting biotechnology, you have to also be thinking about that regulatory framework, because without regulatory framework in place, you can hardly commercialize. And if you don't commercialize a technology, then there's no economic gain. For you to contribute, to be able to have economic gain and contribute to your GDP growth and all those things, you need to be able to commercialize. If you don't commercialize, then you're nowhere. You commercialize and then export, and let your country be also food secured and even be able to export. So that there's gain. So, but without that regulatory framework, that will actually repose confidence in people over the food because of these misconceptions about the technology and their products. There's a lot of misgivings, misinformation and what. So about it, So people need to understand. It offers a great promise. It offers a great promise. It has a lot of potentials, but before that, people need to understand, to have factual information about it.
Okay.
So that when they hear it's being regulated, so that means safety is there. So I think they're like about getting their regulatory framework in place. I visited South Africa, and I've visited their fields. They are a role model. I've been to a maize farm in South Africa. I've been to a cotton farm. I think at the maize farm we even tested. We did eating is believing. We tested the pap. They call their izufufu, their tuwo. They call it pap. It's the white maize actually, and I think that's the maize we're like about commercializing here. So we ate it and we enjoyed it. So and South Africa the farmers told us that this is the only thing they knew. That's the only maize they knew in their country. They experience a lot of drought. It's a drought-prone area. So, and they said, we have been eating this, for the past, is it 20 years or what? I think South Africa adopted 1996 or what, long time ago. Yes. So that's what they've been feeding on. But there's any news that someone...
No side effects.
So that's what they know. And they've made a lot of money because they experience bumper harvest in their fields. Do you know that cotton over there, the heights are very short. They are all dwarf because of drought, lack of rain. But they still do well. So it means they have resilient seeds. With biotechnology, you can actually have resilient seeds. Seeds that even when you plant and it does not rain for 2 weeks, but the moment it starts raining, the seeds will germinate.
And that's the kind of a domestication
that we need. Yes.
In South Africa.
And
which is what you are.
Yeah, that's what we are doing.
That
yes.
We should be doing.
We should be doing. Yeah. So all those propagandas and what misinformation and what those things are just lies to deprive us of the adoption of the technology and then making gains. Farmers are making gains in all parts of the world, even in the US, everywhere. And so why can't our Nigerian farmers experience this? Because it's only through this genetic modification you can actually have this kind of transformation, this kind of change. As you have the seeds, you've developed the seeds. That's all. You cannot do it again. Once you do it once and for all, that is it.
Let's take a short break now. The program continues in just a moment. This is introducing a new TV series on agricultural biotechnology, one of the most complex and accurate scientific discoveries designed to provide sustainable food security for humanity. In the light of rapid population growth, agri-biotech must be understood, accepted, and embraced to realize its full potentialities. Nigerian agriculture is vulnerable to climate change with associated occurrences, reducing agricultural production across the nation. But biotech offers new tools for increasing agricultural productivity and protection of food crops. And from farmers, testimonies abound on the benefits of genetically modified crops. In this TV series, we shall be dissecting issues surrounding agri-biotech with experts on its understanding, acceptability, and application, week in, week out. Join me, Kirian Umayo, on our show, Agri-Biotech and Food Security. Be my guest, Tuesdays, 7:30 p.m. on NT International. Brought to you by OFAB Nigeria, under the auspices of NAFDA. Now, Madam, what are you doing about tubers in Nigeria? We have cassava tuber, yam tuber, cocoyam, potato, and others. Are you researching into all of that? Because, of course, Nigeria is number one in terms of cassava production, for instance. Now, how do you intend to, add GM values or GMO value, to all these tubers to ensure either pest resistance or increased productivity?
The Irish potato has been developed.
Okay.
I have a good news for you. In Jos, the trials is taking place in Jos. Irish potato is being done by the National Root Crops Research Institute, NRCRI, Umudike. They have a station in Jos. So the station in Jos is already conducting a confined field trial. And I think 3 weeks ago, or 1 month or so, there was this thing in Jos, a farmers' field day. Farmers were invited to go to see the potato that can resist blight, bacterial blight. This bacterial blight, I think, is the main problem of potato cultivation in Jos. And I tell you, the farmers were, I mean, they had a good time. They were happy to see the potato, that the improved variety of the potato and their own potato side by side. And they saw that the improved variety had no this disease, the potato blight, I mean bacterial disease. It wasn't there, and their own had it. So they cannot wait for that potato to be commercialized. I tell you, you are making it disease-free,
Yeah, exactly.
you know. So what is it? And then, you know, in the regulation, you know, there's this phrase that the food, I mean, whatever you are working on, whatever you are developing, that improved variety, you know, must be substantially equivalent to the conventional variety. The difference should be in the constituents, should be just that your own has that new gene that is stopping it from maybe being infested or what. Then that one, that conventional one, has, you know, maybe because it has no protection against that. The difference should be just that gene of insert. That's all, and nothing else. So that's what the regulation, you know, states, and it is internationally recognized. The regulation, the standards that we have, I mean, internationally recognized by WHO, by FAO, Food and Agri Organization. You know, they've also done their own evaluations, and they found out that there's nothing, no dangers in genetically modified organisms, food crops, and whatsoever, because of the scrutiny they undergo during developmental process. Cassava also is being worked on at Umudike. Yeah. The cassava is nutritionally enhanced with iron and zinc, and as well is, you know how important iron is. So, and at the same time, it is cassava brown streak resistant and mosaic cassava disease resistant. So, you know, it has 3 threats at the same time. So once you buy or you get the cuttings from that cassava, the stem cuttings, you have everything. You have your enhanced, nutritionally enhanced cassava that your children can eat and have access to iron and have access to zinc.
And
Zinc is a very, very important critical micronutrient in the body. So it's a lot of gains. By the time that cassava is out, I think people in the East, they are done, especially the children between the ages of 1 to 4.
To conclude this conversation, madam, where are we in biotech in Nigeria? How do you rate biotech application in Nigeria and other African countries, if you will? And what do you envisage for the future? Are we really taking a giant leap, you know, into this biotechnology? Let's share your thoughts on that.
I think Nigeria will be heading toward prosperity by the grace of God in terms of food security. People are becoming, you know, more aware of the technology. I think the most important thing is for us to keep up with the awareness, with the outreach, with education, educating people, letting them understand, because our population is growing geometrically. I mean, we are just growing and increasing. And like you said, by 2030, we are expecting that Nigeria's population will be 270 million. And so that's quite huge. So, and we need to feed this teeming population. And so that is why not just one technology, I'm not saying biotechnology is the answer, but modern biotechnology practice can actually contribute. And in terms of safety, it is highly regulated, it's highly scrutinized, it goes through a lot of scrutiny. It takes many years for you to come up with a safe and a wholesome biotech food and giving them out to the people. So there's a lot of empowerment in that. Farmers are empowered and consumers have access to quality food. So that's our main: quality oil, quality food and all. And in terms of safety, there's nothing because we should not be bothered. Nigerians should not be bothered because there's a safety valve in place. We have the regulatory framework, all that it takes, we have it in Nigeria, and I'm sure we are gearing towards, a Nigeria where no child goes to bed hungry. That is my take. That's my hope. We'll be getting better as understanding is of the technology is getting better. People should be rest assured of the safety. It is quite safe and wholesome. It's a scientific venture. Science does not lie. Science is a collection of facts. Science is evidence-based.
Well, I have been speaking with Dr. Mrs. Rose Gidado. She is the Director, Agricultural Biotech at the National Biotechnology Development Agency. We thank you, Madam, for talking to you.
Thank you very much.
We have been talking to a cross-section of Nigerians on their understanding of agri-biotechnology and its application, and whether or not the technology can assist Nigeria in food production.
Okay, I think with the increase in population and the scarcity of food, that would be the best route Nigeria should take, because biotechnology developed crops would produce more in lesser time, which is what would solve our hunger problem.
Okay. Nigerian government has declared a state of emergency on food and some policy markets. Are they the views that biotechnology's application is what we need?
The increase in population has led to eventual increase in hunger. Like there are more people that need more food, meaning we need to find new ways to provide more food in less time.
What do you think are the advantage of biotechnology?
It's improved production.
Yes.
It can be used in prevention.
Yes.
And it can also be used in growth of things. So anything biotechnology is good when it applies to the content of the product. If it's in agriculture, like agricultural growth, you are applying biotechnology maybe in terms of chemical to apply it for the growth of crops to be multiplied. So I agree to that. The advantage is that it brings more food production and it promotes more agricultural products in Nigeria. Like there are some crops that they grow in Nigeria that need biotechnology to grow.
In a world that has been crippled by a whole lot of things like Ukraine crisis, food security, or all of the COVID pandemic, I think we need something hasting in order for us to be able to generate so much food. So I think biotechnology is a very nice approach to that. I think we need something that can feed, like Nigeria now, there are over 200 million people. I think biotechnology is a very big concept that can help with that. So yeah, it goes, I think it's a very good thing.
Some will argue that biotech is not good for our health. So what do you think about it?
A whole lot of things is not good for our health. Like, I think this is the 21st century. And we are exposed to a whole lot of things, exposed to radiations. But I think there are a whole lot of ethical marks that those food would need to pass. So if they pass that, even if it is the 80% pass, and we are going to be getting genetic modified food, if we have food that is going to come out, like we have maize that we can get within few months, 3 months, 2 months, we are good to go. I think it works.
This is introducing a new TV series on agricultural biotechnology one of the most complex and accurate scientific discoveries designed to provide sustainable food security for humanity. In the light of rapid population growth, agri-biotech must be understood, accepted, and embraced to realize its full potentialities. Nigerian agriculture is vulnerable to climate change with associated occurrences, reducing agricultural production across the nation. But biotech offers new tools for increasing agricultural productivity and protection of food crops. And from farmers, testimonies abound on the benefits of genetically modified crops. In this TV series, we shall be dissecting issues surrounding agri-biotech with experts on its understanding, acceptability, and application, week in, week out. Join me, Kirian Umayo, on our show, Agri-Biotech and Food Security. Be my guest, Tuesdays, 7:30 p.m. on NT International. Brought to you by OFAB Nigeria, under the auspices of NAFDA. Well, they call it precision agriculture. In 2020, the FDA, that's the Food and Drug Administration, indicated that GMO soybeans made up 94% of all soybeans planted. GMO cotton also made 96% of all cotton planted and 92% of corn planted globally. Reason is not far-fetched. As we now have in the world improved resistance against plant diseases or drought, and crops with increased nutrient, GM crops have come to stay as long as the world's population continues to grow. That's my take on the show. I would like to thank you for watching the 13 episodes that we brought your way, and the program has been Agric Biotechnology and Food Security. There are no two ways about the fact that agric biotechnology is desirable at the moment in Nigeria and other African nations. These are countries where there are no birth control measures, and so people bear children without control. Therefore, population explosion could be around the corner if care is not taken. So biotechnology is the answer. I am Kirian Umayo. I thank you for being part of this show. See you again.